This week, we're talking nutrition. Good morning, YouTube. It is the 11th of July 2016. Where have the last 6 months gone? I have no idea. So, 6 months ago, I started this journey, and one of the key things to me achieving my progress so far is my relationship with food, and more importantly, my nutritional plan. Now, I call it a nutritional plan because changing my relationship with food meant that I wasn't going to use terms like diet. When you're on a diet, there is a fair chance at some stage you're going to be off the diet. So I decided to rename it. So I called it my nutritional plan. And in basic terms, that means I decide what I'm going to eat, when I'm going to eat it, and the basic splits between my macros to get the nutritional values that I want to achieve my goals. It's quite straightforward. So there's a big truck outside. So after renaming what my food intake is going to be, my nutritional plan, then I have to decide what it's going to consist of. After doing a little bit of research, I discovered this thing called counting macros. What are macros? Well, the easy way to describe what macros are is basically the main food groups that make up your caloric intake. So most people look at calories. They say, I need 2,500 calories a day to sustain healthy living, but they have no idea what the makeup of those calories are. Your macros are basically the food groups such as protein, carbohydrate and fat that make up your nutritional intake. Each one has a caloric value. Protein and carbs are 4 times their grams, and fat is 9 times their grams, so it's very easy to work out through what something weighs to how many calories it will have in round terms. There are other aspects to calories, but in general terms, all you need to know is that you've got protein, fat and carbohydrate, and you need to make sure that the balance between each 3 of those macros is right. If you have all carbohydrate, that's energy in, energy out. So you have to be working a lot harder to make sure that you're not putting down fat if you're in a caloric surplus. If you want to build muscle, you need a high protein intake. You do need fat. Fat is very, very important for basic healthy constitution. Your hormonal balance is very much geared to what your fat intake is. So you mustn't cut fat out, but they should be good fats. You can get these from peanuts, from avocados, from various different food groups. Whole foods, real foods will give you good fat intakes. Okay, avoid the crappy fats. So once you've worked out what your caloric split is for your macros, then you can decide what food groups you can eat to match that macro split. My current split is 30-60-10, so that's 30 protein, 60 carbohydrate and 10 fat. But from Christmas to around about middle of June, beginning of June, it was 40-50-10. So my protein was a lot higher and my carbohydrate was a lot lower in relationship to each other. I've now upped my carbohydrate intake because I've reduced my body fat to a significant level where I'm happy with where my sort of percentage of body fat is. Now I need to improve strength gains and muscle gains, so I need to make sure that I've got enough energy, which is carbohydrate, to sustain that. Okay. Now, basic rule of thumb is 20 times your body weight in pounds is where your caloric balance level is for maintenance or slightly caloric surplus. So if you want to build muscle, you need to be at least 20 times your body weight in pounds to ensure that you've got enough calories going into your body. If you did 15 times your body weight in pounds, that's pretty much going to be where you want to be in a caloric deficit for losing weight. Those are just rules of thumb. Okay. So starting in January, what did I do? Well, one of the key things is I started doing a system called intermittent fasting. Now, this isn't for everybody. But effectively what intermittent fasting is that you go for a 16-hour period without eating, and then you eat in an 8-hour window, and you eat your full caloric requirement within that 8 hours, which is quite difficult if you're not a big eater like me. Now the reason I went for intermittent fasting is because I never really enjoyed breakfast, so I can actually stop eating in the evening and then sleep all night, sleep for 8 hours, and then not eat anything till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon of the following day, which gives me approximately a 16-hour window where I've not had any food whatsoever, which means my body, to get energy, needs to start using my fat stores. It's a very efficient way of dropping body fat in a controlled but reasonably short period of time. It's not a quick fix. It needs to be sustained over a period of time, and it takes a little bit of willpower to get used to. The first 2 weeks of being very hungry mid-morning and then around midday is tough to get used to, but once you do get used to it, it actually becomes reasonably easy to sustain. And I actually found it reasonably easy, mainly because I didn't like breakfast. But if you are big into breakfast, you may want to look at a different way of arranging those time periods. Now, one of the other key things during the fasted period is that I would be doing a lot of my cardio. I used to do a lot of cardio. I don't do so much now because I don't need to drop the body fat anymore. But I did my cardio in a fasted state, which means that my body then, to use the energy to allow me to exercise, would have to use my fat stores. So I had an extra super burn on the body fat. Okay, it's very effective, but it is difficult to first of all get used to and then sustain. It's not for everybody, and I would suggest if you are looking into intermittent fasting, you do research it thoroughly, properly, and make sure that there's no health issues that might mean that you're actually doing yourself some damage. With a balanced diet, controlled system of intermittent fasting, and understanding how to supplement all the other aspects, it's perfectly healthy, and I had no ill effects. In fact, I actually had some real massively positive effects on my basic constitution, which I did discuss in a previous video. Okay. One of the other key things which goes along with changing my relationship with food is there's some buzzwords in the health industry. Cheat days is one of them. Now, if you're on a diet, which means you're going to be off a diet at some stage, and during that on a diet period you have cheat days, all you're doing is putting negative aspects and relationships into your mind with regard to how you're actually dealing with your nutrition. I refuse to call them cheat days. I decided to call them refeeds. Now, this is a period of time where I would take in a much larger amount of carbohydrate during one day. Normally over a 14-day period I'd have one day where I upped my carb intake, mainly because when you're on a low carb diet you tend to crave carbohydrate. Now, if you binge on a regular basis and cheat on a regular basis, all you do is become very negative about that situation. So I made sure that they were very, very strategic. So I decided what day it was going to be, and then I would increase my carb intake on that day without any sort of guilt with regard to why I was doing it. I wasn't binging, I wasn't cheating, I was refeeding and resetting my caloric clock so that my body understood that I wasn't starving. Okay, I found this really quite important, that my relationship using words changed the way mentally I dealt with the nutritional plan that I was on. Okay, and I would encourage you, if you were to do it, to make sure that you call your nutritional plan a plan, and that means there is a target, there is a focus, there is a reason to why you're doing it, not a diet. And then any aspect with regard to changing what you should do, like eating more carbohydrate than you had on your plan, then give it another name. I called it a refeed, but you can call it anything else you want. Okay. So one of the other aspects that goes alongside with basic nutritional intake, or more commonly called eating food, is supplements. I do take supplements. Basically the supplements that I take are omega fish oil. I take vitamin D3. Do take a bit of ginseng. On a regular basis, pretty much every day, I drink with my water branched chain amino acids. These are very good for making sure that your balanced diet is maintained, especially for muscle growth. Okay. Good old creatine, one of the best supplements on the market. Creatine, well researched. Do your own research if you want, but very good if you are bodybuilding or trying to maintain a healthy physique with muscle growth, as I want to say. Creatine is very, very effective. That goes along with my whey protein. This is the one that I like at the moment. PhD one. It's very good, strawberry flavour, very, very tasty. So those are my supplements. Mainly the food that I like to get most of my protein from is fish, eggs and chicken. We do have steak now and again, but mainly it's fish, eggs and chicken. I do like tuna. Tuna salads is one of my favourites, and if you can bulk up with the salad, a little bit of dressing on top, tuna salad is absolutely, one, it's delicious and it fills you up, and you get a high level of protein. Okay, I do also like mackerel fillets. I normally have the ones in the tomato sauce, but this is the only one left in the cupboard, which is just in the brine, but you can add your own stuff with it. Mackerel fillets, very, very good. In the tin, very, very easy. Obviously things like avocados. I have these probably a couple of times a month. I'm not a massive fan of avocado every single day. It tends to get a bit much, but it's a very, very good food. And also, very, very important is to drink lots and lots of water. So that's basically what I balance off with my my food intake and my supplements on a daily basis. I'm a creature of habit. I do like my protein shakes, so a lot of my protein comes from my protein shakes. It's not that I'm lazy, I actually quite like them. I prefer to drink my food for some reason, I don't know why. I do like making smoothies, so I put a lot of things like spinach and avocados and tomatoes into a fruit smoothie, so you just get a good balance of all the nutrients, and I find it much easier to drink it. I just enjoy it more than eating whole food. So that's basically my nutritional plan that I've been on for the last 6 months. I've now upped my carb intake, so I'm currently, for a 1 month period, not intermittent fasting. For the whole of July, I'm having breakfast, which is basically alpen and protein powder and a bit of peanut butter, which is quite a nice mix. Once you've got the peanut butter stirred up, it's very, very nice. Getting a little addicted to that, but that just ups my carbs, so that is currently adding about 600 carbs to my daily intake. which means now I'm in a caloric surplus, which is what I need for muscle growth, whereas previously it was about fat loss. So you have to make sure that you ensure that your nutritional plan targets exactly the outcome that you want. Don't just pick one that somebody else has got. Look at what you want, look at what your body weight is, work out what your maintenance level is, what your surplus level is, and what your deficit level is, and then adjust your food intake to maximise the outcome that you desire. Okay, it's got to match what you need, but it's got to be over a long period of time. You have to look at maybe 18 months as being a period for achieving your goal. It's never a short-term thing. If you go onto these websites and look at huge fat loss in 3 weeks, they're just going to be one, pretty bad for your personal health, and the likelihood is what they're selling you isn't what they've actually been on themselves. Okay, so do your research, make sure you understand your own levels, make sure you understand your nutritional intake, make sure you understand how to count macros, because it's very, very important to make sure that what you're putting into your body gives you the maximum output for what you want to achieve. Stay off alcohol and junk food and processed sugars, and you won't go too far wrong. Okay, having said that, I am a little bit of a chocoholic, and because I've changed my relationship with food significantly, I do allow myself some treats. I reward myself for basically sustaining the discipline over the last 6 months of my nutritional plan, which hasn't been easy. As most people would probably concur, cutting out all the things you like to eat on a regular basis, because my main food source was sugar, and that's one of my big issues, was the amount of sugar I was consuming. So to replace that with good fats and protein was quite difficult. So I do reward myself with some treats on a regular basis. Couple of squares of chocolate in the evening with my coffee. It's very, very nice, I can't deny it, and I shall continue to do it. Okay, I don't see why, on a serious note, why it has to be so painful from a mental perspective to eat healthily. If you're going to eat healthily and you don't enjoy it, you're not going to stay on it. So I have a good balance between making sure that I have a healthy diet. I've said diet. A healthy nutritional plan. So even I do it. So a healthy nutritional plan with regard to achieving my goal, but with an understanding that this isn't purgatory. I'm not in a position where I want to actually be miserable every single day because all I'm doing is thinking about food. So the balance that I've got makes sure that I can live happily and healthily, sleep well, not always be thinking about food, and enjoy my day, because it's got to be a lifestyle choice. I'm not punishing myself. I want to achieve something which is better for me, so I want to feel good about myself. And if you feel crap all day, it's never going to work. You won't do it. Okay, so just make sure you do your research and get your balances right, and make sure you treat yourself. And refeed days, enjoy them. Don't feel guilty. Okay, so that's it from me from this episode. The other last aspect that I probably just want to touch on, but we'll look at in probably one of the other videos coming up, maybe even the next one, is cardio. Obviously, cardio is quite important from a fat loss perspective, but it's the right sort of cardio you've got to be looking at. And I'm quite keen to ensure that you understand the difference between the different cardio types, but they do balance in with the nutritional plan, with your exercise plan, with your weightlifting and bodybuilding. There is a connectivity, a synergy between all three, and you have to get that balance right to make sure that you maximise your time available to achieve your goals. Right, until next time, eat healthy, work hard, make the change. rock and roll.